Now, as you can tell from the box, this is a Chromebook. But according to Asus, it's more than that. According to Asus, this is a cloud gaming laptop. And because Asus went to all the trouble of using the word gaming several times in the marketing, I had to pay $700 before tax for this Chromebook, so that we can see what kind of gaming experience it really offers. Whoa, that's not a great start, is it? After a quick bit of research, it turns out Asus isn't the only company doing this. Gaming Chromebooks are fairly common, and it's pretty difficult for me to talk about the pricing of these things without getting wildly inappropriate. The top-of-the-line version of this Asus gaming Chromebook normally costs a butthole-puckering 1,300 Canadian rubles. You can buy one hell of an actual gaming laptop with that. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like buying a fancy Chromebook is like buying a luxury tricycle. A tricycle isn't the end goal, it's just a thing toddlers use to get used to the idea of an actual bicycle. Just buy a real laptop, I don't understand. But I'm always open to new things, so let's check out this cloud gaming laptop. Now, in all fairness to Asus, for a Chromebook, this is reasonably beefy. We don't even have a MediaTek cell phone chip in here or eMMC storage. Compared to a real laptop, however, it starts to get a lot less impressive, but we'll talk about that a bit later. This is pretty standard Asus laptop packaging. We've got raw cardboard, I guess is the pretentious way of referring to that, and then this nice fabric bag that's protecting the very expensive Chromebook in here. Yeah, it's pretty nice. First off, we get these little bookies, one of which is a gaming offer. I think this laptop comes with 3 months of the RTX 3080 tier of GeForce Now, which is a whole nother thing about this laptop, which we do need to get into a bit later. First, let's finish unboxing it. And here is one of the advantages of you not owning the hardware that's actually running the games. You get a nice tiny power brick. Can you get it off with one tug? Let's see. I guess not. It is very hefty for a Chromebook. This is a reasonably well-built Chromebook. The top is metal of some description, although the bottom is very plasticky. But look at that! Peeking out from under that ventilation, there's some actual cooling in here, which is rare for a Chromebook, but I guess, you know, it is gaming. Back here, we have that yoga hinge or whatever it's called, so you can do aerobics with your laptop. In terms of I/O, it's about as limited as you'd expect for a Chromebook, but I think it's a bit stupid that it doesn't have an Ethernet port on it, because, you know, cloud gaming. But we'll see if that impacts anything later on when we try game on it. Now we need to see if for $700 we get a Chromebook that passes the one-hand open test. This is very important. Oh, it doesn't, so it's just trash. And after having to open the Chromebook using both my hands like some kind of animal, I was real excited by the display. Ooh, that looks like a lovely glossy touchscreen. It looks like it'll be a nightmare to use outside though. It does look very glossy. Now I think this display may be the reason why this thing costs what it does. Because it is a 144Hz display. It may be 1080p, I'm not 100% sure. That's less awesome though. Ooh, it's a pretty entry-level laptop keyboard, rattly and a bit too squishy, but it's serviceable. And for you recreational Excel users, we've got a numpad on the side, which I feel like is a little redundant on a Chromebook, but it's nice to have. I want to turn it on and see what this display looks like. So let's do that now. And once I went through the standard slightly too invasive Chromebook setup process, on first impression, the display was pretty good, but it may very well have been a bit too glossy for its own good. But we'll talk more about that when we try and game on it. First, let's open this Chromebook and have a closer look at its guts. The only place you can kind of stick anything in is this lip around the front of the laptop. This kind of thing just makes damage
almost unavoidable.
But eventually, with enough struggle and plastic crack sounds, I got the bottom off.
There we go.
Oh, but don't forget the Asus Special, a hidden little ribbon cable for you to accidentally destroy when taking the bottom off.
So that rear is about 78% more annoying to get off than it possibly has the right to be.
It's actually made by Foxconn. Oh, okay, so this is basically a MacBook. That's pretty cool. Which I guess explains the soldered down 8 gigs of RAM. Always nice to see.
But we actually have an upgradable SSD in here. Let's have a look.
There it is, all 128 gigs of it, which we can easily access just by destroying the laptop. Cooling-wise, this looks pretty good for a Chromebook. We've got a thick heat pipe with a fan and a little bit of heatsink, which should be enough for the i3, but I guess we'll find that out soon enough. So yeah, let's close it up and try and do some gaming on it. Well, not on it, but gaming using it as like a conduit for gaming. I started off by trying a game that I could run physically on the Chromebook. And considering that it uses Chrome OS, something like Asphalt 17 Losers is pretty representative of the kind of games you can play physically on it.
I'm assuming this is gonna run very well because it is a phone game and we have actual laptop hardware in here.
But it really didn't.
How is it so stuttery? What in the world?
I don't think I mind this game running badly. It's really stupid. It feels like watching a cinematic that every now and then prompts you to press a button so you feel like you're contributing. At this point, I'm sure a bunch of you are thinking, but David, this thing would likely be great for emulating old games. Yeah, but you know what else is great for emulating old games? A real laptop. Besides, these days, the hardware that powers my catheter tube can emulate the crap out of old games. You don't need to spend $700 on a Chromebook for that. But anyway, let's try and use it for its intended use case, cloud gaming. As I mentioned before, the little Chromebook comes with 3 months of the RTX 3080 tier of the cloud gaming service GeForce Now. Which is nice, but once those 3 months are up, you have to spend $20 a month to maintain that tier of cloud gaming. So if you want to spend 2 years, for example, gaming at the GeForce Now tier they bait you in with, that's $480 US, which doesn't even include the cost of the games. This laptop's like the cloud gaming service equivalent of a heroin dealer. At least there is a free tier if you're okay with 1-hour gaming sessions and worse performance. But on the note of performance, let's see how this runs cloud gaming.
Ooh, that is not a very good start.
Something's just adjusted and now it's running better, but no, it isn't. It's still shockingly bad. As far as I understand, I'm in a prime GeForce Now location and my internet handles it well. I've used it before, not with this kind of performance, so I'm not sure what's happening. Now, it could be a network issue, but that's the problem with this kind of thing. If the network's in a bit of a mood, this happens. Now, I'm gonna try wired internet. We don't have an Ethernet port, but I have an adapter we can use via USB-C. Let's plug it in and see if that helps.
A few moments later.
Oh wow, that is so much better. It still looks a bit compression artifacty, but it feels infinitely better. It's not stuttering and there's reasonable input lag. So with that, let's try another game. Now Fortnite is running pretty well. You can see in the very tiny letters up there that we are getting well over 120 frames per second, and this is with 1080p competitive settings. Now, one of the reasons I always use Fortnite is because it's the game I've found that runs the best on GeForce Now. The input latency and stuff is very low, it just feels good, and it's always impressive how well this runs on cloud gaming. But you know what also runs it well? An actual gaming laptop. Wow, Cyberpunk feels pretty sticky, it looks pretty good, and I think the frame rate's reasonable, but you can clearly feel the input lag here. And that's one of the problems with GeForce Now. Not only does it not have a particularly big library of games, but there's a big variation in how the games that it does support runs. For every Fortnite level experience, there's a game that runs like this. Now, considering that this Chromebook has Intel hardware on it, I think it should be pretty easy to install Windows on it to see how it runs games by its own self. But before we do that, let's quickly compare this cloud gaming experience to the gaming experience of a real gaming laptop at roughly the same price. The Real Boy gaming laptop was from a recent video, and it's also by Asus. As you can see by the specs, it is a reasonable bit beefier than the Chromebook, and I only paid the equivalent of about $500 for it. It was on sale, but it is quite a bit cheaper than the Chromebook and has an actual graphics card in it. So let's see how the gaming experience compares.
Now with Fortnite running at the same settings, we are not getting as high a frame rate, but it actually feels better because the system is running it here, so there isn't that input latency feel of cloud gaming. Fortnite may work well with GeForce Now, but even with this kind of laptop, you can still feel the difference. And the thing is, this is with the laptop running in a single channel RAM configuration, which really kicks its performance in the balls. If you upgrade the RAM to a proper configuration, it makes a huge difference. Check out the dedicated video on this laptop for more information. Now, I will say that the Chromebook was much quieter while gaming because, it doesn't have hardware running the game in it, and the display isn't quite as nice. Although, it's a decent display. It's still 144 Hz and it is an IPS panel, so it's not as good, but it's still a pretty good display. So if anything, I would say that this is running the game better than the Chromebook was, just because of that lack of latency. Now when it comes to Cyberpunk at 1080p low settings, it's a bit of a mixed bag. In terms of visuals, it doesn't look as good as the cloud gaming experience, and the frame rate is lower. But it doesn't have that input lag, so I don't really know who to give it to here. The laptop may not have the input latency, but its visuals and frame rate is much worse. But at least you don't have to pay $20 a month for it to run like this. Anyway, with that pretty unscientific comparison out the way, the last thing I want to do is install Windows on the little Chromebook so it can run games with its own steam, horsepower, power. Okay. Oh, the ribbon cable.
So after quite a lot of struggle, we're finally at the point where we've got Windows installed on here and we can run some games physically on this very expensive Chromebook. Now, I did run into a couple of problems. The first one is that the only I/O on the laptop that works is the one square USB port. So back here, it's a bit of a dongle nightmare. The trackpad also doesn't work, and the audio doesn't work. None of the jacks, nor does the speakers. So at this point, it's like a third of a laptop. But at least we can see how it runs games, right? Sure, it's gonna be very impressive. So at the end of the day, all I had to do to run some Steam games natively on the device was physically break it, and then spend 2 hours hacking Windows onto it just to have half of the laptop not working anymore, and all that for 40 frames per second at normal settings up a hill. Yeah, I don't know, I guess it's convinced me. I don't think it's stupid anymore.